Welcome to another edition of the Wonderberry Podcast.
I'm Brian,
I'm Dave.
and you can find us online at wonderberry.com.
You can find me online at Open Darkwing.
You can find me at briankeesbury.com. Dave,
What?
Dave,
What?
I did something this week that I said I had planned to never ever do again for the whole rest of my life.
You told me that if you were going to do that with that particular person, that you would let me know. Wait, what?
I bought a printer.
Why?
Well, so I had a verbal contract with a client and yada yada yada, lawsuit words, threatened, blah blah blah, stop payments, hurt feelings, bad words said, final payment caught up finally. I was like, fuck, I need a contract, which means I need to print it, and I can't like, yeah, I could like run to UPS or whatever and like have a contract printed, whatever. I don't want to go spend like $5 every time I need to print a contract. It's like, let's get on Best Buy. I'll spend like $80 to $100. I'll buy like a Brother, something like a laser jet, something decent. It isn't going to have stupid freaking cartridges. I hated the idea of cartridges for a long time because they were just,
Yep.
I'm not a big fan of e-waste,
And they're fucking expensive.
Yeah. So I was on
And-
Best Buy. I was browsing around and Brother had these, I don't remember what they called, like I don't know, but you essentially like they had a tank in the printer and then you got a cartridge and you like put the cartridge in there and then it filled the tank in the printer. And I was like, well, that's neat, but also dumb. Like you're still buying a cartridge, but then the cartridge fills the tank in the printer. Like, why don't you just have a bottle that fills the tank? So then I was looking at like, I backed out and I was looking at anything but HP. It's like HP is a shit company that made me hate printers in the first place.
Yep.
Because they have a subscription service for their cartridges.
Oh, it gets one even deeper. My all-in-one office thing that I have from them. If you're low on ink, the scanner stops working.
Yeah. And if you put in a third-party cartridge, they will brick your printer.
Yeah. Oh, if you're full on black ink and your color toner is a little low, you have to replace all of them.
Yeah.
It's terrible. It's the reason why I no longer own a printer.
Yeah. So anyways, I got to looking at some of the other ones, and both Epson and Canon now make printers that have tanks in them, and you get these bottles of ink and you put the bottles of ink into the little holes on top of the tank and it fills the tank in the printer, and you have no cartridges. You have these no spill bottles. They pop into the top of the tank and it fills the tank in the printer, and that's that. And
interesting.
The one I happened to click on, the Epson one on Best Buy, it was like a $300 printer, and I was like, well, that's silly, but I need to know more about how this works. I was like in a research phase. I was like, this is neat. Let's do some research. And I was like, it was an Epson Workforce, like STC 2100 or something. I probably have that model number wrong. But I was like, okay, let's see. Like it was like one of two of them that Best Buy had. They had a like $200 and they had like a $300 one. And I just happened to be looking at the $300 one, and I was like, okay, let's search this model number and see what Epson, see what Epson has, and kind of go from there and see if I can get back into my budget range of like the $80 to $100 range.
Yeah.
And so I put the model number in the Google search, and it popped up, and Dell had that model on sale for $137. I was like, oh,
Th-
ooh,
that's close enough to the price range to make it worth it.
yeah. So I was already working with another client who needed some menus printed. And the original plan was to like, they had spent $1,000 to have like 50 menus printed. And I was like, buddy, I could probably help you beat that because you had them like, you had the company like do the design and do the print and do the lamination. And like, honestly, the lamination sucks and like the form factor sucks. The design kind of sucks because the print is real small. It's kind of hard to read. I was like, buddy, I'm gonna help you out and help like we're gonna make this cheap. So like when you do want to change the menu, you aren't scared to do it.
Yep.
Like it's like I'm gonna figure out how to help you make this cheaper so that you can do it more often and not, and it won't be so scary to do if you need to do it. So then I got to thinking like, okay, now I need to plan this out as a whole different option. Like, I was just thinking like I was going to design the menu and then find a printing service that was going to print it for me. And now I'm thinking like, okay, I'm going to design it, print it in-house, and then figure out the laminating after that.
You can get a laminator kit for not terrible amounts of money
Yeah, I've already been shopping.
with pre-cut laminator sheets so
Yeah,
that it's even all the way around and all that fun stuff.
I've already even added more options of finding like the portfolio things where they have where you just slide like the sheet in.
Yep.
I found those too as an option while I was trying to search for like specialty menu paper because I was thinking like find some super high quality like semi waterproof paper so that they had paper that wasn't laminated, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And that way it looked nicer and didn't look like a diner menu.
Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
it's very easy to go full on diner with those.
yeah. And so now I'm planning like, okay, crap. Now I offer a like small print service with some of my graphic design service.
If
Crap.
you're going to do stuff like menus and stuff, what I would do is I would learn some sort of publishing software
Yeah, that's what I've
because
been
it
working
makes
on.
things so much easier. Affinity has a publisher. The entire Affinity suite's not that terrible, but their publishing software is really good.
That's
It's on par enough with um, the Adobe's InDesign that I was able to do all of my InDesign homework when I was taking my vector class. We did a bunch of InDesign stuff. I was able to do 100% of my homework in Affinity
honestly, Dave,
Publisher.
I'm gonna do it in either a Google document or in
Oh,
Google Slides.
that's a bad idea, but okay.
I I can do it. It has all the tools I need.
Yes, until he decides that he wants the file and take it anywhere else.
I can
Or
I can
he
export
realizes
it.
that your printer is not high enough quality and wants to take it to another printer and they laugh you out of the building.
I can export it as a lot of there's a lot of I mean a Google Slide I can export it as a lot of things. So that's why this is part of the planning is I'm thinking about it. I can export it as a PDF or an SVG, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
So here's the only rub that I have found with, and this is particular Google services, to a lesser extent Office services, exporting those as PDFs sometimes will completely fuck up the formatting.
Yeah, that's the one thing I'm gonna
Because
work on, is trying to make sure I can do
especially
that.
with Google's stuff, which is why I've completely stopped using them, is they fuck up formatting, or they just don't include certain formatting things. That's why I stopped using Google Sheets, because whenever I exported it to give it to someone else, it would just randomly not save formulas. And it became, unless they were using unless they were using Sheets as well, but like handing it off to someone that uses Excel or something like that, there would be complete formulas that would be missing. And it got so bad to the point where I was like, I'm never using this again. That's why I pay for um a 365 subscription, is because I can't trust the Google system to not fuck everything up from here to there when you're trying to deal with any sort of collaboration with anyone else, unless they're using the same Google stuff you are.
Well,
It's been my biggest pet peeve against the Google Office suite since the beginning.
yeah, that's part of that's also like, if I make the menu and it's going to be my design and I'm going to print it in house, like that's going to be that, you
Yeah,
know. And
until he asks, "Hey, this isn't a high enough quality print. Can we print it somewhere else?"
hmm
And then, depending on what happens when you export, is depending
well,
on, like, because do those work with CMYK?
if it's a PDF, it should.
That would be
As
my
my
first. That would be my first. My first check is, can you convert it to CMYK and do it that way? Because if you can't, then it doesn't matter. It's for printing. Especially if you take it to another printer somewhere else, it's going to be absolute garbage.
yeah.
And if it can't handle doing CMYK, like even Inkscape, the open source vector stuff, it doesn't even do CMYK.
Wait, are you sure?
Yep.
What? Hold on, because I just did a CMYK print out of Inkscape.
It might export a CMYK, but that also fucks colors up, because it's using lib, whatever the image library. Fuck, which one is that they use? Because it does not natively support CMYK. They have a weird workaround where they claim it, but it screws up on printer, on like taking it in to get stuff printed pretty badly.
Hmm. Oh, crap. Okay.
Yep. You've had that's one of the biggest. That's why I don't use Inkscape anymore for anything that's important. That's why I ended up buying, because I was going to just use Inkscape instead of, when I was going away from Adobe.
Yeah.
And then when I found out that I cannot do native CMYK, I went, this is not good,
Yeah.
especially for vector images.
Yeah.
And so that's when I ended up buying the Affinity Suite.
Well, that seems silly.
Yep. Well, it's because their argument to it is, We are an SVG editor for web. CMYK is ridiculous.
Yep.
And to that, I would say, bullshit. You're just too lazy to figure out how to include CMYK into your code base. But they actively reject anyone else trying to add it in there. Like Inkscape is just off the rails with that shit.
That sucks.
I know. Oh, I know.
Okay, so back to quality prints. I
Yeah.
I did buy a $300 printer, so print quality is going to be pretty good until he
Good.
steps up to like, spending $1,000 on a print. So, like
Yeah,
the couple of test prints I did, I was looking at it and going, "Whoa, whoa,
that's kind of nice
whoa,
though.
neat." Yeah, that's what I was just
Send me
like,
the info. Like, well, I'm trying to think. I really don't do enough printing to justify buying my own printer because if I, when I'm done with this, if I end up picking up anyone that needs print stuff, um,
"Send them to
I
me."
have a couple of really good
Yeah,
contacts with a couple of local print shops, and
yeah,
I'm just going to outsource through them. I just don't give a shit. I don't need all that extra shit in my house.
yeah. And if you need some like personal prints done, just send it over. I'll get it
I'll either
done.
do that, but I also have an account over at Office Depot.
Oh, yeah,
So, like, I can
and
print.
that
I
was the other
print
thing. Is
at
like,
10 cents a page, 15 cents a page color.
yeah, I don't have one around here. I have like the UPS store in
Oh, they're
Coldwater.
expensive as shit to print.
Yeah, and for like printing photos, like I can do it like in the Google Photos app and like print stuff at Walmart, but you know,
Yeah, if I want a photo printed, I'm not going to trust anything that I could afford to buy and put in my house.
yeah. That's what I
Especially since I'm dumping more money into cameras and lenses before I'll dump money into a printer.
yeah. That's what that's what I should do. I'm gonna take some of the pictures that you took. I'm gonna try and print some of those. I might do that today. Print
Cool.
some. I'll see how those go. I haven't printed any pictures with it, but I printed some documents and like some of the flyers I made, and I was just like, "What? That's crazy." So, yeah.
Oh, we're about ready to move into portrait photography
Oh,
this
nice.
next week. Yeah, I'm not like, okay, so I haven't done much portrait photography, so I'm kind of withholding judgment. It's not the type of photography that kind of tickles my fancy.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of like meh on the idea a bit. Like for more traditional, let me rephrase. It's for more traditional stuff. I'm like, okay, whatever. Like I get it, but I want to be a little bit more unique than that, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I don't know.
It's it's you got to know it though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, and I'm excited to learn it. And we do have a full like photography studio that I'll be able to have access to. So I'm like, it looks like we're doing some family photos, but I don't know. I'm much more happier doing like landscape and street stuff.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm not gonna completely toss it, like toss the idea. I'm just going to kind of keep going with it and see how I enjoy it. Do have to figure out some. So we got models coming in on Monday apparently.
Hmm. What kind of models?
I don't. I think two of them are from the Fort Wayne dance thing. There's like a dance group, and I think two of them come from them.
Oh,
Because our professor, she also is like the photographer for him or whatever.
you sharing those photos?
Sure, why not?
How'd your stop motion storyboarding video stop? I don't.
So funny
What
enough,
what am I asking you, Dave? What?
how did it go?
How'd it go?
It went really
How'd it
well.
go, Dave?
I think it went really well. We are reviewing it on Monday, so I'll know more about how everyone else thought. I thought it went well. Um, it it's kind of
What was the process?
so
I think we
okay.
started talking about it.
Yeah, so what I wanted to do is I ended up doing a Lego build. And I went and bought like a small little box of Legos and stuff. And I was like, okay, I want to do this Lego build. And I had a whole bunch of really cool stuff that I want to do it. Like I wanted to have the character because it was like a little Mandalorian with the child and like this little spaceship and stuff. And I wanted to have, instead of just doing like a Lego build in stop motion, I wanted to have the Mandalorian going over and picking up all the individual pieces and putting it together.
Yeah.
2.5 hours in the project, I realized that that was probably a bad idea. So, so what I ended up doing was I switched gears a bit, and
Wait, you adapted?
I adapted. Yeah. Oh yeah. I absolutely fucking adapted. So I ended up doing it where they kind of walked around, the characters walked around a little bit. Mandalorian would hold the child, and he would kind of turn, and it almost gave the illusion that he was like using the force to assemble the ship,
Nice.
which was kind of cool. Um, I took a bunch of pictures. I did everything through the first time. I sat down, I threw it in, and I was supposed to have between 1 and 2 minutes of video, right? And I was like, I did the math, I double checked, I thought I double checked everything. I got all this down, and then suddenly I realized I had 22 seconds of footage.
So, can I tell you a quick thing about some math while we're so, so remember how I was saying earlier how I wrote up a contract for my it's for a 1 year agreement, but on the contract I put, instead of putting down like one year, I put it down in days, and I took it to a friend that does, and we were sitting down, and I have a good verbal agreement with him, and I was like, well, I'm building your website and you're not signing this. I was like, I know you deal with a lot of contracts because you're in insurance, and I want you to look it over and see what you think, and make some notes, like draw on the page, make some notes and let me know what I need to change. And so we sat down, across the table from each other, and he's going through it. Like he first thing he did was he flipped to the back page, and he said, most important thing any business is going to want to know is what the termination agreement is. He opens it and he looks at it and he goes, okay, termination agreement, blah, 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 30 days. Great. Why 30 days? And I was like, because I have to like get the renewal in like 30 days before the end of the year. And he goes, okay, why is the agreement for 360 days? And I was like, well, because like that's the year. And he goes, well, okay, why 360? And I was like, 360 days in a year. He goes, no, 365. And we were sitting there looking at each other, and I went, well, then it's 360 because I'm dumb. And he goes, and he just looked at me, and he circled it on the paper and wrote 365 next to it, and that was that. So Sometimes we just don't math right, Dave. Like,
Yeah,
even
no.
though you and I are both like super good at math,
Yeah.
sometimes sometimes we're just not.
So I had to kind of scrap and restart. But the thing that, I've never done visual storyboarding before. I have notes. I have notes in a shorthand that I understand for what I want for camera movements, what I want from uh positions and what goes on. So I've always kind of storyboarded a little bit, but I've never really done a visual storyboarding until this class. I have to say, going when you're frustrated as shit because something went wrong, having a visual, okay, what am I doing now? And you can go back to is insanely invaluable.
Yeah.
And I've done this a couple of times now. I've done it with two projects where I've done the visual storyboard. I did the original chess video, which I need to not re-upload, but I need to change description and titles, and then I'm gonna have them available on my YouTube channel.
Nice.
Um, I wasn't originally going to, but I figured, you know what, I might as well because I haven't put any other content out since March, and I'm sure that there's a few people that are trying to figure out what the fuck happened to me.
Yeah, Dave. What's happening? Why aren't
And
why
those
aren't you
people probably don't listen to my podcast that I talk about what's going on once a week
why aren't you putting any of this on
without fail because
opendarkwing.com?
that's coming up soon actually because opendarkwing.com is going to be, I have a whole plan for that. I want to get into that at some point today too because
He's storyboarding it on paper.
not yet, but I
Should
will.
be. He should be.
No,
That was kind of the
so
first thing I did with my site was I kind of sat down and like storyboard. I did it in my brain hole instead of like on paper, which is what I normally do. But
well, I decided that if I'm going to dip my toe into the Fediverse, I might as well Kool-Aid man it.
that's what I did. I just was like, I'm gonna just scorched earth all of my old social sites, and
Oh no, I'm not. I'm doing
going
it in
butt
addition
ass
to.
naked. I'm going butt ass naked into the new world.
I'm doing it
And
in addition to. That's kind of because yes, there are people on the federated verse and stuff, but it doesn't have anywhere near the reach that, I mean, PeerTube is awesome. Doesn't hold a candle to the reach of YouTube.
yeah,
PixelFed is awesome. Doesn't even come close to the reach that I currently have on Instagram.
my friends aren't on any of those sites. My friends are on briankeesbury.com. So
So what I wanted to do, and I'm still trying to figure out, I've actually was talking with Chris. We've met him in the past on one of these episodes. Because I wanted to have my PixelFed, my PeerTube, and like a Mastodon accounts. But I wanted to have one unifying account, like unifying address that all of those would then kind of reroute to.
mhm.
And so that's what I'm working on and figuring out how the fuck that works so that I can host all of those, but you can find my feeds through one unifying account. And I
I'm
don't think I want to self host a Mastodon. If I do it that way, I'm not going to self host a Mastodon, not going to self host PixelFed or PeerTube. I will use someone else's, but my unifying handle will be me. If I can't do it that way, then I'll self-host all of it, which I might end
I'm
up doing anyway.
I'm 90% sure that's how my site is set up. So if
Well,
you have
and that's what I was thinking too. I'm like, okay, I'm thinking about doing all this stuff, and I had a couple questions for you that I purposely did not ask this week because I wanted to ask today.
okay.
Because you've been experimenting with WordPress and ActivityPub, right?
Yeah.
Okay. question one, can you post stuff to your activity pub or through to your website and activity pub and stuff via a different app, or does it always have to be on a computer?
What do you mean?
Because I know that if I have a Mastodon, like say I have the Mastodon app, I can view your activity pub, right?
Yeah.
Could I or could you, utilizing that Mastodon app, also post to your activity pub? Or does it have to come from your WordPress site?
There is a plugin that will allow you to post to. So what it does is it's a plugin where you use your Mastodon app or Friendly or whichever
Whatever
app
app.
you
We're
prefer.
going to use the Mastodon app right now because it's
Yeah.
the one that I have. It's my federated app that I have on my phone at the moment.
So what it does is you log into your WordPress site. You use your Mastodon app and you create a post. And then it actually creates the post on your WordPress site and then feeds that out. And it essentially makes your Mastodon app a the interface for your WordPress.
Okay.
So I think I'm having some background problems with my WordPress that is making that not function correctly. And I haven't dug in deep enough to figure out why that's not working, which is, I think it's also the issue of why we're having the following issue. You know, what we were experimenting with, like how you would
Yep.
click follow and then it would say pending.
Yep.
So I was doing some experimenting um, because I also set the activity pub up on Wonderberry. So on the Wonderberry site, I went and I followed my personal site. And on my personal site, I followed Wonderberry. There was zero issues between the two of them. They followed it and everything worked exactly as it should have. Now, when doing it in the Mastodon app, there was a hiccup. So I haven't figured out what that hiccup is or how to fix it.
All right. Because I'm just trying to figure out, because so the idea that I want to have is, or that I want to do is that I want to just have one address where people can access everything that I post through
Yeah.
Activity Pub.
Yep.
I
That,
kind of wanted to separate them out, but because I don't know.
in theory, that's how my site should be. And because I have I have categories set up in my backend. So I have, like I'm posting images in an image category and I'm posting videos in a video category.
And that's what I was thinking about doing.
And there's a microblog and there's macro blog categories. So everything should be going to.
And then on your WordPress site, you just have those as separate areas that you can access through like a drop down.
Yeah. And I just, when I post something, I make sure I select that. And then as it feeds out, it should filter. So like if you're on like Pixel Fed, you should get the image category. And if you're on FeedTube, you should get the video category. If you're on Mastodon, you should get the microblog category. It
Yeah.
should work like that, but I haven't taken the time to like go set up accounts on each of those apps to do the testing.
Yeah. And I'm trying to as I wrap my head more around decentralization, I'm trying to figure out if for those individual groups, if it's beneficial to find a server that aligns with the audience that I want to be cultivating so
Yes.
that I'm more discoverable instead of self-hosting all of those, and then self-host something to where I can give them kind of like an activity the activity hub feed that is unique to me that can see everything, or they can follow it individual. I'm not sure how to rectify those two things yet.
That's really gonna be the hard part is still, like, getting your feed out there, like, still getting your media promoted, like.
Yep. And it's one of those things, like, because for what I'm wanting to do it, I'm not looking for another email, if you will.
Mhm.
I'm looking for a way to promote myself as a photographer and videographer.
Yeah,
And I don't know if federated space is mature enough for that yet.
that's the thing, it's not, like,
And so
I'm
I'm trying to
not gonna
think,
be getting views, like, on my video. I've been doing a series of videos where I've been recording doing 7 Days to Die and posting them on my site, but I know I'm not getting views. I have 5 to 8 views a day. So, but I don't for me, I'm not in it for that, I'm just doing it for the fun of me.
yeah,
And
and
I'm experimenting.
I'm doing stuff for fun, but I'm also trying to
You're trying
figure
to
out
build a
a way.
brand.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I'm trying to do right now. And so I think having stuff, and so this is where I was like, okay,
I'm trying to build the knowledge to build other people's brand. I'm trying to build this knowledge so that when you come to me and say, "Hey, I want to build this brand," I can hopefully answer your questions and help you build this.
yeah,
But it's going to be the
and this is
promotional aspect is going to be the hardest, and it's going to be finding where the people are and your your address, you know. And it's gonna have to be like the same as your email address, where it's gonna
so
be like
yeah.
at David at Open Darkwing.
And so that's why I wanted to have a unifying address, because that's exactly what I wanted, is because my email address is david@opendarkwing.com. And so having at david@opendarkwing.com for to access my entire federated stream would be perfection. But do I, if I go the same route that you have, for example, and go the WordPress route, and I just categorize everything else separated on WordPress, I was trying to figure out how would all that get fed out, if you will. And that's what
If
I'm kind of trying to figure out. How would people, for the people that do want to do that, and because eventually it's going to get to that point, do I need to have an account on each of those services that get promoted to just those services from, and can WordPress promote it that way to where,
no, if you're plugged in, then it's just a matter of them finding you. Because then, like, if you're plugged in, it's feeding out. You know what I mean?
yes, but I don't want to have, because like all of my social media right now at Open Darkwing, because social media has been amazing at keeping a lot of the same naming nomenclatures. Like if you type in youtube.com at open darkwing, you
Yeah.
find me. If you
Yep.
go to instagram.com and in open darkwing, you find me. You go to x or twitter.com open darkwing, you find me. And it's the same. I've managed to, because my name is unique enough, I've unified it across all these brandings.
Yeah. And
And I
that's the
want to be
only
able to use at David at opendarkwing.com to unify my federated, even though it would be different stuff. I want that to be a unifier for my federated media. And I don't know how to do that just yet.
that is when you set it up, like when you set up your user in WordPress, you'll set your username. I think you set your username. Yeah, you set your username as David. So then your author would be David. So then, like when you author a post in WordPress, your post author will just say, like in the back end, it'll say post author David, and then your user in the Fediverse will be David at opendarkwing.com. So for me, my Fediverse is my Fediverse, because my username on my WordPress is me. So my Fediverse account is at me at briankeesbury.com.
Right. So
The only trick to it is like when you initially set up your WordPress, you make sure you get your
because
initial user setup right.
that just kind of, but it just publishes to one space, and you hope that, because then everything gets flooded. So if someone's on PeerTube, everything I post at that would get flooded to them, and not just the videos.
Yeah. Well, and I think from my limited understanding, and I don't, there's a lot to it, and
Yeah.
I am just like at the beginning of understanding the decentralized and federated, like social networks. But from my limited understanding is because it all runs on ActivityPub, and they
ActivityPub though is just like an RSS feed. I mean,
yeah,
when you break
essentially
it down.
yeah
And so
yeah
you can't separate one protocol or one thing from the other, which I guess is the whole point of I guess what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to quasi centralize a decentralized system,
yeah
because it being decentralized on a marketing standpoint and a brand standpoint is an absolute goddamn nightmare.
yeah. And that's part of why I set it up for myself. Was I was like, I don't want to be like, I don't want to be on Threads, and I don't want to be on Mastodon. I don't want to be Brian at mastodon.social, and I don't want to be Brian at threads.net. I want to be, me. I'm me. I want to be me at Brian Keesbury. So
Yeah, and I want that too, but I want to be able to have it to where
it's
people
not
that
gay to
only
hell.
use and are
It's
only
straight to
looking, if
hell.
someone's on PeerTube looking for me, they don't give a shit about my still pictures. They give a shit about my videos. If
Yeah.
someone's on PixelFed, they don't care about my microblogging. They care about my pictures.
Yeah. So in
And
theory,
so I
they shouldn't, in theory, if they're using that service, it should be differentiating the post types,
but
because
does
it
But does Activity Pub work that way?
Yeah, because it can handle all the different, media types and the post types, and it should be differentiating all the different types. But there's also a lot to it. So I don't, and that's where I was saying, like, I'm just like at the beginning cusp of trying to understand it, and there's a lot to it. So
What I might do is I might just build a test basin for all of these, install WordPress as a test hub somewhere, and figure it out.
well, why don't you go create accounts on all on why don't you go create the accounts and then go subscribe to me, since I already have the site built? And why don't we teamwork this, Dave? You create the
Yeah.
accounts and subscribe to me, and then we'll work on. And I know I have some like background issues going on, so I could work on trying to figure those out. And that way you won't have to worry about setting up the WordPress, because I've already got that part done. You do half the work, and I'll do half the work. And we'll figure it out, and we'll report back to what are we up to? 5 listeners.
I don't even know how many listeners we have.
I don't know.
For my personal stuff, I follow analytics. It's very closely to figure out trending stuff and figure stuff out. For this thing, I don't think I've ever looked at any analytic ever, and I have no clue. We could be reaching 1.2 million people, and I would have no clue. I don't think we are. That'd be fucking phenomenal if we were. But if that's the case, then it's not translating over to our personal stuff, and we're just kind of fucked in that regard, I guess.
Our analytics have like a couple hundred or so, but I
Really?
go by off of the people that like actually comment to us directly.
You can't do the comment. Commenters consist of anywhere between 1% and 5%.
Yeah, well, there's like 5 people that talk to us directly, so that's why.
True. Well, and I know of at least 3 people that listen that don't ever comment. So,
yeah,
I mean,
well,
they're
one of
my
them,
kids, but
yeah, one of them's your kid who like actually commented on our thumbnails. So
that is true. He did like the thumbnails.
yeah, and we had a popular creator of a internet meme copy pasta thing that I
if
think
you
is
were on
now on
Reddit,
the level of Rickrolling.
oh yeah,
but yeah, it's just specifically for Reddit.
I don't know how did Shitty More find us?
That's a real good question.
That'd be my first question to him, because like, how the
Oh,
fuck did you find it? Shitty More, if you're listening again, how did you find us? Please, I'd really like to know.
we're gonna get them on the show, and we'll go over the whole deal, and we're gonna talk about memes, and we're gonna talk about like what the fuck, and we're gonna talk about the Undertaker and Mankind, because that was a hell of I'm not even big on wrestling, but holy shit.
Yeah, you're not a wrestling fan and you say holy shit. I'm a wrestling fan and I still say holy shit. So it's
yeah.
If people don't understand what we're talking about, look up Mankind, Undertaker, Hell in a Cell.
Yeah.
And prepare to have your mind fucking blown. For anyone that likes to say wrestling is fake and no one gets hurt because it's all fake, I understand that it's predetermined and it's entertainment. But saying that it's absolutely fake is doing the athleticism and stunt work and everything else that these people do. It's dismissing all of that, and
they are highly trained stunt people and extremely talented athletes, but yeah, everything is like pre-planned. Like they plan a lot of it out. I'm sure there's like stuff where they're just like, they probably have some bullet pointed episodes where like, yeah, we got to do this and do that, but
I remember my uncle telling me, because I was talking about wrestling at one point, and he was like, it's fake, right? I was like, yeah, so is Game of Thrones, and it doesn't stop you from talking about it. I think at that moment it clicked that it's the same entertainment medium.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the UFC, it's not football, it's not sports in that way. It's an entertainment medium.
Yeah,
But
I had somebody giving me shit because I was watching a video game, like somebody playing video games I was watching on TV, like on my TV. I was watching a YouTube video of somebody playing video games. It's like, oh, you just watching somebody play a video game? And I was like, yeah, and you just watch people play football. And I
yep.
just had to like, uh, uh,
Why would you watch someone play video games when you can go out and buy the video game, play it yourself? Well, why do you watch football when you can go to Walmart and buy a football and play it yourself?
yeah, it's like literally the same thing to me. And I was like, yeah, I actually play this game. I'm just learning how, like, I'm trying to learn some tips and tricks from somebody else who plays. Like,
Yep. There's skill level and there's entertainment value.
yeah. Like I'm being entertained by this, but I'm also like trying to learn how to get better at my own playing because this game's real fucking hard, man.
But yeah, going back to what we were talking about earlier,
What were we talking about?
storyboarding.
Oh,
Having that kind of a plan, having a detailed plan that way. Because when shit hits the fan, because it always will, and you have to adapt and change, you have to adapt to the changes because you always do. Having something
changes.
having something written down to kind of give you a place to kind of mentally and physically look down and return to is super important.
Yeah. Dude, that's why I'm so big on pencil and paper. And I I did, did we talk about I know I'm pretty sure I told you personally, but last week right before we recorded the episode, like literally I had the headphones on, I'd like typed the record, the start record, and somebody pulled in my driveway. Now, I sit
Yeah.
outside and record because it's still nice out, and that's where I'm at now. But somebody pulled in the driveway, and it was an auctioneer, and they were selling a house down the road, and he pulled in, asked about putting a sign up in my yard. And I was like, yeah, heck yeah, you can put a sign up, like to advertise your auction. And we chatted for a little bit. He was like, oh, you out working? I was like, well, yeah, sorta. It's like, he asked what I do. I was like, oh, I build websites and stuff. It's like, oh, he gave me his card. He's like, oh, you should have a look at my website. So, and he goes, oh, how do you find clients? I'm like, well, mostly word of mouth, and sometimes they just pull in my driveway. But then, like,
Perfect response.
yeah, and he, like,
God
the
damn
look
it.
on his
Perfect
look on his
response.
yeah, the look on his face, like, he was just like, that's hilarious. You sold whatever you're selling, I'm buying. Like,
Yep.
but then, like, the next day, I sat down. I got my clipboard. I went and I used to be a huge fan of the black Ticonderoga pencils.
Yeah.
When they were USA made, they were cedar and they had beautiful graphite, like straight grain graphite in them, and the tactile response when drawing and sketching with them was amazing. Anyways, now they're Chinese made. They have some shitty, I don't know if it's like soft spruce in them, and the graphite in them is like pressed together, and they don't write as good anymore, and I'm wholly disappointed. But anyways, I went and I bought some new Statler, like super nice pencils. So I sat down, I had my clipboard, had a piece of paper, I actually had a whole stack of papers, and I pulled up their website and I was looking at it and I was like, oh God, this is awful. And they had like their homepage was like a big about us page. And then they also had a separate about us page. And then there was a whole, they had like 3 businesses on one website for the auctioneering business. And so I just sat down and I started like making a hand sketch of their what I would make their website look like, and like I just went to town like drawing, pencil on paper, and I drew out what the header image would look like, and I writing words on it, and then I drew, I'm like actually drawing images, and it wasn't anything super fancy, but like I prototyped their website on paper and like made the storyboard of what I would make it look like. And
Yeah.
then Monday was Labor Day, so then Tuesday I called him up. I said, "Hey, this is Brian, you pulled in my driveway and I sold you a website and you didn't know it yet, but I sat down and looked it over and I sketched up what I would do for your website, and just wondered if you wanted to like, yeah, time to like get together or chat, or I wanted to show you what I sketched up and what I would do if you were serious about me actually building your site." He was like, "Oh yeah, yeah, he was gone all week, so he's like, "Yeah, can you like email it to me and the partner, and we'll have a look, we'll talk it over, uh and then hit me up like next week and we'll kind of go from there." So like I I did the whole storyboard for the site, and I also had like I had to sit and think, cuz like I don't know much about auctioning. So I was kind of only going off of what information they had on the site. And they had auctioning, they had real estate, and then they had a whole separate auction site that's specific for theme parks and like theme park attractions and carousels and stuff like that, like the rides and stuff. And so like on my like written storyboard, it was called Norton. On my storyboard, I wasn't sure how to incorporate that. So I just had a big circle and it said WTF is Norton. Like that's all there was for that. But I had like how to incorporate kind of the real estate better, how to, and how to, I had like my background notes of, okay, this is how the posts will work for the auctions, and like this is how it'll switch like before and after the auctions actually happen. That way there's like the list of them, and they'll have them available to see. And I not only had like their storyboard, but I also had like my storyboard for like what I was going to have to do on my back end too. So I like I used the Google Drive PDF scanner on my phone, scanned it all. And when I talked to him, I was like, "Okay, so here's the deal. I have some notes on here. One of them is a big circle. It says, 'What the fuck is Norton?'" And so we talked for like a good 15 minutes, and he told me about uh when he went to the auctioneering school, he hooked up with this guy, and it was his first business partner, and he got into auctioneering, like auctioning off these theme parks, and he became like a partner in the business, and kind of took over. And then his partner died. Now he just owns the business, and he doesn't do a lot of them anymore, but he's he loves it because it's so cool. And he's auctioned off like haunted attractions, and there was like, and looking at the website, there was just this massive list of just really, really, really cool stuff. And so then, like, after I talked to him on the phone and I understood what Norton was, like, I just left the circle on the paper. But then when I emailed my scan to him, I came up with a whole nother idea. I was like, okay, I'm not sure if you know this, but there's a big, I wouldn't say a big, I was like, there's a like niche community of people who do like deep dive research into the rides and theme parks that they went into as children. And I've watched videos on Kings Island and the Fun Spot Park in Angola, because
Yep.
those are places I went as kids. And I didn't go like crazy into it, but when I did watch some videos, I saw that there was lots and lots of information available. And while I was driving after I talked to you, I got to thinking that if you have any of this information available, any of the stuff about the sales, any of the information on any of these things, we could get this up on a whole different site. And you might be able to put some ads up on there, and it might not be a whole lot of income, but you might make some residual income just from having some of that information on that site. And I not only did I storyboard like one whole site for him, but I storyboarded like a whole different site off of something else he said, and like gave him a whole nother thing to think about. I was like, I think you have a whole nother thing here. I don't even know if you're aware of, like, this is a whole nother thing, bud. And so I kind of like, I didn't like sketch out a storyboard or anything. I just like storyboarded this idea and used my own personal examples in it because of the, Kings Island and Fun Spot. I was like, these are things like, I didn't even deep dive these. I just, I just happened to be thinking about them one day, and I was like, I wonder if there's like videos of these on YouTube. And I looked them up, and sure enough, like people had like literally broken into, because Fun Spot shut down. So, and people had like jumped the fence and gone in there, did a big tour on their own, and filmed a bunch of videos of it, and then used archival footage and talked about the whole place. I watched a like 2-hour documentary on Fun Spot, but that was all the further that I went. But it made me realize like there's people that go like super deep dive into this stuff. And so then like that was kind of like the big paragraph of like, hey, you might be sitting on a little gold mine if you have any of this information like in a filing cabinet or something somewhere. Let's see if you can dig that out. And if you want, I'd help you set up a whole another thing. Because and it was also because when he was talking about it, like his whole demeanor changed. He got pretty hype. And I was like,
Yep.
okay, I think I could storyboard something here. So I had developed a little plan, and I put that like right in the email and said, hey, I don't know if you're interested in this or not, but this is something I think would be kind of neat. So, but yeah, that was my storyboarding planning. I did that. I did that. I did
It's
those
im-
2 things, and then I
it's
also did a whole flyer where I did the same thing. I sat down and, like, sketched it out on paper and
it's so important to just have a plan.
yeah.
Like even if you don't end up sticking to it or something happens to it, having it to begin with is so important.
Yeah. Unlike
Like
what we do
it's
here, where we come
yeah.
in with no plan and we give you, like, super high quality episodes and, you
Absolutely.
know
Oh, absolutely. Only the
yeah.
bestest of qualities.
Yeah. And when you guys get high quality entertainment with 0 planning and no thought put into this. We hop on here, hit record, and just ramble out of our asses for about an hour.
And it's gotten better since we've decided to start doing themes, but
No, we did no such thing, Dave. And we have we have 0 continuity and we do 0 planning. And if anybody said we do, then I quit.
right.
We're not a real show. We do not have more than 3 or 5 listeners. And stop it, Dave.
Okay, I'll stop. Yeah,
Crap.
something like that.
Crap. Well,
Anyway,
yeah. Remember, it's not the straight bull, it's the Bible.
what?
It's not the straight bull, it's the Bible.